Hey everyone, I noticed that some of you are still having some trouble with the concept of a function in MATLAB, or a user-defined function, so I want to try to clear this up in this video. So if I create a new script file, a script file is where you would do computations or call functions. That just means using the functions. It's basically the file where you would have, homework 5, say. And this is where you would do some of your computations. It is not the same as a function file, and I wanted to clear that up in this video. So a script file is where you would do some computations. Say I want to compute x plus y. This is fine. It's almost like a way to keep track of your work. The command window, so if I copy and paste this into the command window is where you actually generate variables and solve those computations. Another thing you can do is when you organize your homework files and use the double parentheses, this creates sections. So if I clear everything here and I click run section while my cursor is in this between these two double parentheses, I will run these 3 lines of code in order. Okay, let me clear those. So what's a function file? Where a function file is where I would go new, and I have this untitled 3 file here, or you can click the little plus sign here. This is where I would write my function. So say I want to compute the area of a rectangle area, and I want to input the base and the height, and area is just going to be base times height. This is the function. Notice that I did not give base and height a specific value here. If I did base equals 10, height equals 5, this is not a good function now because MATLAB's even telling me that I'm not using the input arguments. These 2 lines are overriding the input arguments, so no matter what the user puts in to these input arguments when they call the function or when they try to use the function, it's going to get overridden to 10 and 5. So there's really no point for this function to really exist because it's only doing one thing. The entire point of a function to exist is so that you can do a computation that's maybe, this is the same computation I want to do, but maybe I want to know about it for different values of the base and the height. And that's the whole point of having a function, is that I could put any values for the base and the height here when I call my function, and it will compute using those values. If I give specific values for the base and the height in this function is totally useless at that point because I've now basically taken away the whole reason for using a function. So when I save this, I'm going to save it as the name that it should be, which is the same name that I have here. So I save that as an M file. And that's it. That is the function. Now, when I then ask you to call a function in your script file, that's where you would put, base equals 5, height equals 13 maybe, and then here's where you would put area equals rectangle area base height. Okay, now when I run this section of my script file, run section, notice that area, base, and height, these variables, all showed up in my workspace. So that's when things are actually computed and I have access to these variables. So now if I type height into the command window and hit enter, I have that height is 13, base is 5, and I computed the area using the function rectangle area. This is a function call. Calling a function simply means using it. So the script file is where you use the functions. The rectangle area, this M file, is the function itself, and it should not have any specific values in it. It should never have any code above it. So if you had like base equals 10, height equals 13, this is also wrong because now if I tried to call rectangle area, and then maybe I put 2 numbers in here, I get an error because you cannot have any code above a function file. The first line in a function file is function output equals function name inputs. That's always going to be true for function files. You should never have you should never overwrite your variables for your inputs in a function. Otherwise, they shouldn't be inputs at all if you're going to keep them, you know, the same value every time. So let me get rid of this. Okay, this is the function call. Notice you could also use different names here. So I could say b is 5, that's what the base I'm using is, height is 13 maybe, and capital A is the area. So when I run this section, I have the variables b, h, and a, and I computed the area of this rectangle. And notice that this is what I was talking about back in lecture 6 with local variables. These variables are not local. These are the ones I actually have access to, b, h, and a. Whatever is put in this first spot here will be read in the function as base and will be used wherever base appears in the function. Similarly, wherever h appears in this, wherever this second slot holds, that will be read into the variable height, the local variable height. And the output area, this is the local output, the local variable for the output. Whatever I put as my variable for when I call the function, that will be stored. The value of area will be stored in that variable. So here, capital A gets the value of the area. So this is a function call. This is the function itself. You should also never copy and paste a function into a script file. This should not happen, and if I have, you know, maybe I have like problem 3 down here, and I have like z equals 10, I don't know. Now when I try to run this section, I get errors. So when I try to run your homework files, when you've copy and pasted your function into the file, this produces errors. So do not copy and paste the function itself. That should not exist in your script file. Okay, and then this is the thing you would save as homework 5, your name. Obviously you put your name here. And I hope this clears things up. So this is a function call. This is where I use the function itself. I don't have those specific values in here because I don't want to override my inputs. I want to be able to call this function for any value. So say I say area 2 is rectangle area 1427, and that'll compute another variable. So now, if I clear everything and I run this section, I now have A, I have A2. You can call the function multiple times with different values, and that's kind of the entire point of making a function. I can compute all different areas of this rectangle, no matter, you know, what base or height I'm interested in. I can just use the same function and call it multiple times. I hope that clears things up, because I've noticed that this was an issue, and then I thought it was kind of resolved with maybe homework 4, but it seemed to have come up again in homework 5, that people maybe have forgotten how functions work. So yeah, please make sure your function is in its own file. Don't put like a specific function call parameters in here. They should go in your script file. This is where you call the function or use it. So I hope this helps clear things up. Let me know if you have any questions.